Let's get started. Hi guys, welcome to the first session of Connect. I'm excited to be up here today talking about Couchbase Mobile and Couchbase IoT. So my name is LeClerc and I am the product marketing manager here at Couchbase for Couchbase Mobile. So before we get started, I always like to take a poll and kind of get a feel for the audience. Who in here has used Couchbase Server or is using Couchbase Server? Good. And what about mobile? Who in here has used Couchbase Mobile? Okay, good. That number continues to grow every year. It's just so encouraging. So great. So let's just quickly go through the agenda. Quickly want to highlight the challenges that a lot of our customers and enterprises are looking at today when it comes to mobile and IoT. Spend some time talking about the product, what Couchbase Mobile is, and how IoT kind of fits into that space. Common mobile and IoT use cases that we're seeing. And some real-world stories from some of our customers who are using the Couchbase Mobile platform today and how they're using it. And then we have some time for Q&A as well. So today we're seeing an explosion of mobile, web, IoT, big data apps. Businesses are building more apps than ever before. They're building them for their customers. They're building them for their employees. They're building them for their partners. And these apps are deployed to more than just phones and web browsers, right? They're on wearables, they're on tablets, they're on cars, they're on appliances, they're on machines of all types, generating and accessing massive amounts of data, delivering real-time, personalized experiences, bringing data back into the company and driving those intelligent, better decisions and innovation, which is creating more efficient, more effective businesses. So you guys heard all about this in the keynote this morning, right? And it's really the success of building these mobile and IoT web apps that depends heavily on a platform that manages mobile data on the device, over the web, and in the cloud. And integrating your mobile apps with a backend database is really important. In fact, according to a study by Backend Company, which is a notable mobile research group, about 96% of enterprises consider easy integration with a backend database critical for success when building mobile web and IoT apps. And it's really this explosion of mobile apps that's bringing this idea of exceptional mobile experiences that customers really expect now. And that expectation is that these experiences are feature-rich, they're personalized, experiences that are accessible anywhere and that are fast. Data has to be secure. Peter, I think, or Robbie mentioned this morning, there's a lot of customer data and privacy issues, and keeping that security in place is so important. And of course, these experiences have to be available all the time, online and offline. But really, what's holding you back from creating these personalized experiences? Well, it's not really just about managing data in a data center. In fact, centralized data is holding you back because mobile spans the web, it spans mobile devices, and it spans IoT. Your customers need access to data everywhere it's created, from the cloud to the edge. And you need a mobile solution that resolves those data storage, access, transport, and security concerns and challenges across that stack. So you need a full stack solution, a solution that manages data across the entire application and network stack. So let's go into this a little bit deeper on the centralized data problem. There are 4 data challenges to solve for when building mobile applications. So first is data management from the cloud to the edge. You need a solution for reading, writing, querying, and searching data on mobile and moving data to and from the devices to the cloud. You also need data availability for apps that will always work online and offline. So the infrastructure needed to support mobile apps, again, spans the devices themselves, it spans the internet, spans a web tier, and the cloud. And you need a solution that enables data availability across all of these tiers, including HADR, including performance, and including scalability. Third are data integration APIs for integrating into your existing ecosystem. So mobilizing your legacy systems is critical for many of our customers and for many enterprises. You should be able to easily integrate your mobile apps with any data source, like systems of records, data warehouses, etc. And last, as I mentioned earlier, data security from the cloud to the edge. So securing data throughout the stack is so imperative as more of your customers engage with your business from their phones and tablets. Specifically, it's the ability to secure data in motion over the web and data at rest on the device as well as in the cloud. So let's take a look at a typical homegrown mobile application platform. I'm sure many of you are familiar with this. You have your database tier where your systems of record live, most likely with a cache on top of those. And you have the intranet network layer and security on top of both of those. Next, you have your middle tier, which is where your web services typically live, and the internet network layer and security on top of both. And last, you have your client tier, the place where the devices themselves are. That's your mobile phones, your tablets, your wearables, etc. And of course, security on top of that. So all of these devices need to move data to a database tier over the internet, and most likely, that's via RESTful services, all of which you have to build, manage, integrate, etc. So this is what connected apps look like today. Looking at this holistically, you have separate technologies and integrations you have to build, manage, and piece together. You have to build web services. You have to manage client databases. You have to handle all the integrations. You have to build out your database tier. And you have to manage the security policies separately across all these tiers. So you can see that homegrown mobile application is complex to build and manage. Syncing data from devices all the way to the cloud is also very hard to build and manage. Apps may or may not work offline in this scenario. And most of the time, you have to custom build your own data APIs to integrate with existing systems. So wouldn't it be better to have a solution that solves all these challenges for you? Let's talk about Couchbase Mobile. This is Couchbase Mobile, the full-stack mobile data platform that resolves the challenges associated with creating those mobile experiences and building mobile apps. It's data management, it's data availability, it's data integration, and it's data security. Couchbase Mobile consists of 3 different components. You see up here, you have Couchbase Lite, which is a full-featured embedded NoSQL database that runs locally on your device. It includes complete offline support with full CRUD and query functionality. Sync Gateway is second up here. It is a secure web gateway that enables synchronization and data access over the web. That includes configurable synchronization, REST, stream, batch, and event APIs for data access and synchronization. And then we have Couchbase Server, which is our flagship, I'm sure you all know, highly scalable, blazing fast, NoSQL database server. And underlying all this, we have built-in enterprise-level security throughout the entire stack. So that includes user authentication, user role-based access control, secure transport, and 256-bit AES full database encryption. So let's go back to that typical homegrown mobile application, which I just showed you a few slides ago, and see where Couchbase Mobile fits in. So managing all the data concerns in the database tier, you have Couchbase Server in the cloud. Managing the data concerns over the web, you have Sync Gateway. And managing data concerns on the device, you have Couchbase Lite. And across the entire stack, you have enterprise-level security built in. And last, Sync Gateway APIs allow you to integrate with your existing ecosystem, whether it's your system of record or whatever legacy system you need to mobilize. So Couchbase Mobile gives you one platform to manage your client, middle, and database tiers, built-in synchronization for managing data transport between the device and the cloud, the capability to create mobile experiences that work both online and offline, and APIs that enable you to easily integrate with your existing ecosystem. So diving just quickly into the components of Couchbase Mobile, starting with Couchbase Lite. As I mentioned, Couchbase Lite, a full-featured NoSQL database embedded that runs locally on the device. We're really focused on cross-platform portability, and we've built native from the ground up for each platform. So we support all the major operating systems, including a Cocoa version for all the Apple technologies. That's iOS, tvOS, OS X. Our Java version supports any platform that runs a J2SE compliant JVM. So that's Android, Linux, Windows, and a ton more. And our C# version supports all the .NET runtime. So that's Mono, Microsoft, and Xamarin. You can store both JSON documents and blobs. Couchbase Lite has a small footprint at about 500 KB on most platforms. It's about a meg on Java. Data secured on the device, as I mentioned, using 256-bit AES full database encryption. And we added TTL support for auto-expiring documents in one of our latest releases. So next we have Sync Gateway. Sync Gateway, as I said, is a secure web gateway that enables synchronization and data access over the web. It has configurable REST, stream, batch, and event APIs for accessing and managing data over the web. User authentication is pluggable, so out of the box, it has support for popular public login providers like a Facebook. It has support for basic authentication, or you can write your own custom provider. And we've added OpenID Connect support for OAuth 2 identity providers with our Couchbase Mobile 1.3 release. So if you have an authentication provider that supports OpenID Connect, which many of them do, you can just plug that into Sync Gateway. You can also restrict access to the system to authenticated users and optionally allow for unauthenticated guest users. It also has fine-grained RBAC for controlling data access for individual users and roles. Next is Sync Gateway is elastically scalable in real time, so you can add and remove capacity in seconds, basically as fast as you can add and remove nodes in your load balancer. In Couchbase Mobile 1.3, we added Sync Gateway to Sync Gateway replication, so it's really awesome. It enables integrated support for topologies beyond star, for example, tree topologies, which are really popular for enterprise applications. And then last up here is that it's elastically scalable in real time, which I actually think I already mentioned. So that's kind of the overview of Sync Gateway. And then Couchbase Server, backing all of this is Couchbase Server for managing and storing data in the cloud. We'll do questions at the end if you don't mind. It's highly scalable. You can start with a few nodes and scale out, adding additional nodes as you need capacity. Couchbase Server supports millions of concurrent users by leveraging memory and asynchronous operations. Like Couchbase Lite, it has that awesome flexible JSON model, and with Couchbase Server, you get 24/365 uptime by enabling replication and automatic failover. Now, I put this security slide in here, and I've kind of touched on what I'm about to talk about. I just want to highlight this end-to-end security that Couchbase Mobile provides because it really is so important. Robbie talked about it, Peter talked about it. End-to-end security when you're moving and handling and managing data from the cloud to the edge is so important, especially as more users and more of your customers are relying on this technology to store sensitive data. So, as I mentioned, Couchbase Mobile manages the data security concerns across the entire application stack. So for user authentication, we support pluggable authentication. As I mentioned, out of the box, we support popular public login providers like a Facebook. We have OpenID Connect, or you can write your own custom provider. For data read-write access, there are fine-grained policy tools that allow controlling data access for individual users and roles. Read-side permissions are at the document level, and write-side permissions are down to the field level. Data transport on the wire for data in motion is over TLS. And data storage on the device for data at rest on the device, we have 256-bit AES full database encryption. And last, for data storage in the cloud, for data at rest in the cloud, you can configure Couchbase Server to use file system encryption. So quickly talking about IoT and how it all kind of fits into this, what I've been talking about. This looks familiar. You've seen this slide. So when you begin to think about managing IoT data from a data and infrastructure perspective, there are 4 core components that IoT platforms and applications include. So those are the things themselves, which is what you see in your client here, the internet, a synchronization solution that allows you to move data from devices to a backend database, and finally, a data management solution to manage all those things, the security and the syncing or the movement of data from these things to the back end. So the Couchbase full stack data platform solves for that. You have Couchbase Server in the cloud, Sync Gateway over the web, Couchbase Lite on the device, and then security, full stack security running across the entire platform. And by the way, Couchbase Server supports built-in integrations with big data technologies like Hadoop, Spark, and Kafka, so you can support the massive streams of data that need to be processed and stored. And also you can derive meaningful insights and actions from that data in an IoT capacity. So as I mentioned earlier, you can also integrate the Couchbase data platform with your existing systems of record, your data warehouses, and other downstream data processing applications. So that's kind of how we fit into the IoT space today. Okay, so now let's look at some Couchbase Mobile use cases. So we have a bunch of Couchbase Mobile customers that are using the platform to build many different types of mobile applications, user profile database, field enablement for offline data access, whether it's field sales representatives or an employee taking orders in the field, or perhaps it's someone working on a machine in the field, or it's someone managing inventory. A lot of times network isn't guaranteed, but the devices have to continue to work to ensure that employees can continue to do their jobs. So that's where Couchbase Mobile is seen as a huge benefit, right? Providing that field enablement, offline data access to remote employees. Asset tracking, user activity logs. A lot of our customers who have consumer-facing applications, their use cases all around allowing their customers to log activities throughout their day, whether it's health data or exercise data, or maybe it's what they ate. So user activity logs, we're seeing a lot of that as our customers are using Couchbase Mobile. Device local data management, so all around managing data locally on the device, both online and offline. Endpoint data management, those are your IoT use cases. And Robbie talked about Beedie this morning, which we'll have another session on later today to talk more about, but they're a great IoT endpoint data management use case. And last, peer-to-peer data management, the ability for Couchbase Lite instances to communicate with one another is something we're seeing more and more of today. So let's quickly talk about some of our customers specifically and how they're using Couchbase Mobile. So based in the UK, Doddle is a package collection and delivery service. In fact, I just got back from a trip from London, and Dawdles are literally everywhere. They're in train stations, they're in airports, they're all over the city. I got really excited whenever I saw one because I know that they're using Couchbase Mobile. Their big problem was all around offline and local processing capabilities, which are super critical for their business. Network connection at these stores, because they were everywhere, was really hard to guarantee, but packages were being delivered and picked up throughout the days, so any downtime was having significant impact on their business. So today, Doddle is using Couchbase Mobile to power about 60 some odd storefronts. Offline, it's that offline data access that's super critical. And they're also using Couchbase Mobile for some other really important things like replication of data to store systems, as well as eventing. So next we have Ryanair. Ryanair is both the largest European airline by scheduled passengers carried and the busiest international airline by passenger numbers. So they're based in Dublin. They're using Couchbase Mobile to manage local data more efficiently with the storage of semi-static data. So today they have about 3 million, maybe a little bit over 3 million users planning about 80,000 flights per day using their mobile app. The problem that they were trying to solve for was associated with user experience and the amount of time it was taking to complete a booking. So we love their story, and in fact, instead of telling you about it, I'm actually going to show you. So this is a comparison of Ryanair's mobile app before Couchbase Mobile and with Couchbase Mobile. So you'll see on the train below how quickly the app running on Couchbase Mobile hits landmarks like flights, seat selections, and more. The old app is the top train, and then the new app is the bottom. So on the left is the original application before Couchbase Mobile. This architecture was a hybrid mobile app using REST services backed by a relational database and cache. In this architecture, the mobile device talks to the web server via REST, which retrieves data from the cache and or the database, and the cache and the database here are two separate systems. So with this architecture, the old architecture, bookings were taking more than 5 minutes to complete. Data had to be retrieved from the server during each booking request, increasing the amount of time to complete a booking. And over 80 gigs of data was being transferred to mobile apps per day to drive this booking process. So a lot of issues associated with performance and user experience. On the right is the app running on Couchbase Mobile. So with Couchbase Mobile, Ryanair moved to a synchronization architecture. Semi-static data is stored in the embedded Couchbase Lite database locally, and then automatically updated via Sync Gateway when it changes in the cloud. So the app always retrieves the data from the embedded database first, thus eliminating the need to constantly request data from the server. So as you can see, the mobile app experience is now so much better and so much faster. Some stats around that: the booking process is around 60% faster. It was slashed from about 5 minutes to just under 2 minutes. Network traffic to drive bookings is about 87% more efficient, reduced from 80 gigs a day to about 10 gigs a day. And overall, the user experience is vastly improved. So you can see that the application on the right has completed their booking, and we're not even halfway with the old application. So pretty impressive work the Ryanair team did. And so really great example for those of you who want to take advantage of Couchbase Mobile within your existing mobile apps. There are great ways to do this, and this is one of those ways. It's caching semi-static data assets locally within your application and then using synchronization to update them as they change. So next we have Beedie. Beedie is using Couchbase for content delivery and storage, as well as endpoint data management. Again, I know Robbie talked about it this morning. Really excited about this one. It's a great healthcare use case. If you don't know, they're a Fortune 500 billion-dollar medical technology company, and their Couchbase Mobile use case is pretty incredible. So what they've done is build an app that patients with diabetes use to track their glucose levels throughout the day. The app they've built is not only collecting this patient data, but it's also helping with interventional care for these diabetic type 2 patients. It's also helping improve the patient and clinician interaction to lower those diabetic incidents. So instead of patients having to visit their doctor, show their results, and have their doctor make recommendations based on what they're seeing at that time, patients are able to, in real time, provide glucose levels, what they're eating, their activities, and doctors can, at that moment, provide real-time suggestions based on what they're seeing. So it's radically changing the traditional doctor-patient relationship, enabling doctors to provide those up-to-date recommendations, analysis, and a ton more for their patients. So later today, we'll be diving a lot more into the BD use case and all the details around that. But amazing use case, incredible demo. I'm excited to show you guys. And last, a logo you're probably familiar with is GE. GE is using Couchbase Mobile to power its Predix platform, its software platform for the industrial internet. So what Predix does is it connects machines like trains, wind farms, submarines, so much more, all kinds of things that are counted on to work all day, every day for the next 25, 30, 35 plus years. Connectivity for Predix is mission critical because these machines are literally everywhere in the middle of a field, in the middle of the ocean, on top of a mountain. And these machines have hundreds of moving parts, all of which have to be tracked and maintained. So what Predix does is it ingests all this data, it stores it, cleans it, it analyzes it, and it provides that information back to operators at massive scale. So Predix has to be reliable 24/7, and it relies on Couchbase Mobile for that. So in addition to being a pretty cool IoT use case, offline capabilities are also really important for Predix. One of my favorite things, actually, that Mike Hart, who's the engineer for Predix, always says and always talks about is around this idea of offline first being the new mobile first, because offline capabilities are so critical for Predix. So GE is a really great example of a legacy company adapting and evolving its business to be a major player in this digital economy and using Couchbase Mobile to underpin that. So why Couchbase Mobile? With Couchbase Mobile, you get one complete, integrated, and secure platform that manages the data challenges across your entire mobile and IoT application stack. So with that, I want to bring Sachin up. Sachin Smotra is our principal product manager for Couchbase Mobile. 4 questions so that you guys can have both of us up here. While he's walking up, I'm supposed to remind everybody to get the Couchbase Connect app, share your opinion on Couchbase for Gartner, and to follow us on social media. So with that, questions, guys? Yeah?
Just curious on the Ryanair app, so I guess it's possible they could work with something offline and they could work on scale, right?
I couldn't hear that. And
They're booking offline.
Yeah. It's mostly around, obviously people can't book if you're offline, so you're not actually going to complete a transaction. It's more around the searching of the flights, seat selection, these sorts of things. And then, do you know how it's queued up when they're actually, if they're offline?
Sure. I mean, so I think, again, good morning, everybody. My name is Sachin, and I'm the product manager for mobile. A warm welcome to all of you out here once again. The question out here, just to repeat the question, I think your question is around the Ryanair use case is around caching of data locally on the device. And then when they have to do any transaction, they actually use one of their REST services. So it's a mix of offline and online architecture. When they actually have to make a purchase, and they'd use the REST service to make the actual purchase. But as far as most information about a flight is concerned, you can imagine that that is kind of fixed or doesn't change very often, and that's why instead of downloading it from the web each and every time, they're using Couchbase Mobile to essentially make it, store it locally on the device and make it available even in the offline mode. Yep.
On one of the slides for Sync Gateway, you showed that it could interact directly with the legacy system of record. How does it do that exactly? Can you explain that more?
So Sync Gateway provides, provides a whole bunch of APIs, REST, batch, and stream APIs. So you'd have to build essentially, use those APIs to build a connector between your legacy system and the Sync Gateway. So I wouldn't say that it's automated, but given the rich set of data integration APIs that Sync Gateway is providing, you'd be able to build that fairly easily.
So, I'll follow up that.
Okay. Sure.
So, my understanding is Couchbase Lite stores some types of data instead of wait every time to server to retrieve data release the Lite version. So, in an online, like say even in the example which you showed, the Ryanair, do you store all the data in your Lite, or how do you decide what data to be stored there? Because I may book from, say, Dublin to New York, or I may book from Germany to San Francisco. Like, how do you decide what all data, how much data is stored in the Lite?
So that's an application level concern. That's something that would be dependent on your specific use case. Again, as far as the amount of data that you'd like to store on Lite, that would depend on what your target audience is and what devices they have. If the device has enough storage, specifically in the Ryanair example, you could even prepackage all of your content and ship it along with your application. If your application distribution mechanism happens to be the App Store and you're worried about users downloading large gigabytes of data on the from the App Store, that's going to be an issue. So again, it's very specific to the use case that you have in mind. And if you have specific questions around what you're trying to solve for, I'm happy to talk about that offline.
And just to clarify what Ryanair is doing, so what they're storing is what's called semi-static data assets. So it's data that changes sometimes, but not enough to constantly make those calls to the cloud. So those are things like seat maps and airport information, things that change. And when they change it's critical that it's reflected, in near real time on the device. But it doesn't change enough that it requires, again, those constant calls to the cloud.
Size limitation on Couchbase Lite? Can you expand on that? Are you thinking about documents that you're storing locally on Couchbase Lite? I believe it is 20 meg, which is what it is for the server, but I'll have to confirm that.
What about the overall Couchbase
So the size of Couchbase Lite is 500 meg. 500K, not 500 meg, on most platforms. But on Java, it is around 1 meg. So that would depend on the amount of storage that is available on your device. So there's no hard limit that we've seen. I think in terms of use cases, we've seen gigabytes of data being stored in Couchbase Lite to, in some cases, depending on how small your documents are, how large your documents are, even megabytes of data being stored. For the 20 was the document size limit, which is a Couchbase Server limit. I'll again have to go back and check. I don't remember off the top of my head if it's the same. I think it'll be the same for Couchbase Lite as well, but I can definitely answer that offline. All right, I guess I'll go there first and then I'll come back to you. I'm sorry, can you please speak up because I can't hear you? Uh-huh.
Oh, thanks so much.
Yes,
No
now I can
worries.
hear you. Now at least
Oh,
know.
absolutely, sure. On the GE example, right, that you just mentioned, I want to
Sure.
understand on the Predix platform, the IoT platform they have, different formats of the data, different verticals that they serve. I want to understand what product capability or feature they used to in Couchbase to allow them to make that available. Because I have a similar client who is looking at similar examples. It's a very large healthcare client, so I just want to understand how they did it in GE Predix Healthcare.
Sure. So the primary problem that GE is solving, so again, I think from a data format perspective, as you're aware, Couchbase is a NoSQL database. All the data is stored in the JSON format, so they're all JSON documents. Because there's no schema, you have the flexibility of essentially putting in whatever data you'd like out there. So that is a natural fit for having disparate data source types or disparate data types. So from what you can store on the device, there's no limit in terms of the structure of the data that you'd store because JSON does not have any schema associated with it.
No, I get that. I think I was looking at the wall of analytics on the Predix platform. If you
Okay.
heard about their example that they try to socialize on their website, the wall of analytics, where they're actually showing all kinds of analytics coming from different shapes. So want to get that. Is there anything in particular that they requested to? I'm not asking you to share any client information, but just in general.
So I think the primary capability that GE was looking for, which they tried to build on their own for about a year, was essentially the ability to synchronize data from the device back to the cloud.
Oh, back
So they
to
were
the
having a whole bunch of challenges associated with that. I think they tried to develop it internally on one single platform for around a year when they came to us, and then looked at Couchbase Mobile, the fact that it was cross-platform and would provide a consistent experience across all platforms for both online and offline access, and ended up going with Couchbase as their primary mechanism for offline access in the Predix platform.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Well, yeah. I think deep dive later. Appreciate
Sure.
it. Very good. Thanks.
All right, before you go, Manny, I think there was a question right here.
Yeah. So we're a lot of companies are taking our model to the services, but our security is implemented in a bunch of filters and filtering the app. It's a pretty specific security model. Do you have any examples of companies that have created some gateway stuff to do the security is part of our services?
Sure. So we actually have a session later today to do a complete deep dive into the end-to-end security model for Couchbase Mobile. I think to answer your question out here, Sync Gateway out of the box comes with pluggable authentication. So again, depending on how you've got security deployed and configured in your organization, you could use either OpenID Connect if you have an OpenID Connect provider, that authentication model, or you could build your own custom authentication model with the pluggable authentication that Sync Gateway provides. I think to go into deep dive, I'd say that if you're here for the session later today, I'd be able to cover in a fair amount of detail all the work that needs to be done to essentially secure your Sync Gateway instance. All right, Mac.
Hey, Sachin, so I had a question. Going back to the Ryanair example, right? So, for example, you said about a seat map, right? So, your customer is working offline, and she decides that she wants to book seat 19, for example. And then at the time of the transaction, the data has changed, right? So, I'm assuming it's up to the application to take care of the exception handling at that point when the seat is not there anymore?
Right.
How does Sync Gateway help us to do something?
So I think what you're describing is essentially conflict management. So you have for classic mobile disconnected use cases where you have two clients who are accessing the same data and are essentially making changes to the same set of data. And when you synchronize it back to the server, you realize that the client is in conflict. So conflict management is built into Couchbase Lite. It's in the current revision of Couchbase Lite, which is 1.x. the application itself has to handle conflict management. So we have APIs available for conflict management where you could essentially decide how you'd like to handle these two conflicting documents. Couchbase Lite also gives you, rather Couchbase Mobile also gives you the flexibility of handling conflicts on the server side, where you could essentially think of it this way, where you have two clients who are looking for seat 19B, and that request goes back to Couchbase Server. You have a conflict handling application on the server side that's essentially pulling that information off of the sync gateway changes feed, reassigning the seat for one of the customers from 19 to 20, which happens to be available, and that information is then sent back to the client. So there are sophisticated conflict handling capabilities available, and I'm happy to talk to you offline about how you potentially use our APIs.
With a name like Couchbase Lite, it kind of seems like it's a stripped down version of Server. What does Couchbase Lite not do?
So I think the first comment you made, that it's a stripped down version of the server, that's actually incorrect. If I go back to the slides on Couchbase Lite, the one thing to highlight out there is that it's built ground up for the mobile use cases. So I think, again, there are different capabilities. The needs of a mobile device are very different from the needs of, I think, a server class database. Again, from a mobile perspective, I'm storing data that is relevant to that particular device, which would be very different from having data for like everybody across the enterprise being stored on the server. In terms of key capabilities, you have full CRUD operations on Couchbase Lite as well. In fact, in the upcoming release of Couchbase Lite, we're introducing full text search and nickel queries on Couchbase Lite as well. So with Couchbase, you get essentially the same consistent experience. And Ravi talked about this in his keynote as well. Whether you're accessing it on the device, on Couchbase Lite, or you're using the programming model on using one of our software development kits, SDKs, on the server side. So in terms of key capabilities, there is parity at a conceptual level. Again, if you go into details, I think there'll be things that'll be different, but at a high level, if you learn how to program with Couchbase Server, it'd be easy for you to transition to Couchbase Mobile and vice versa. All right.
So the rest of the day will be all around Couchbase Mobile 2.0 and all of the new enhancements and features coming out for that. So stick around. You'll get your hands on 2.0, which is very exciting. And that's it. Thanks a ton for attending.
Thank you.